thing was hanging upside down.
Straight up 3-hour show, no breaks. Like, that's I just roll. I don't care. I don't think I've ever experienced an angel. I mean, I could have, right? I mean, Paul says in the Bible that, to always be hospitable because you never know when you're in the presence of an angel. I don't think it's angelic.
Welcome back to Straight Shook, our series of spooky, creepy, scary ghost stories on the Rhetorical Steak podcast, hosted by your boy, E.R. Hunter. This show is produced by Earth. That's extra resources that help, as you know. Find us on patreon.com/ERHunter. That's patreon.com/ERHunter, and show some love and support for what we're doing here. erhunter.live, erhunter.live. That's the website. Look, y'all, we've come a very long way, and we're so grateful to have you with us here today. Stop by, drop us a line. We're taking a survey on what your favorite podcast is and why. Takes 2 seconds, and we'd really appreciate the support. As you know, this episode is sponsored by God Sent Dog. That is the literary work of E.R. Hunter. It's the story of how his dog, Irie, inspired him to change his life and live sober. It's available on Amazon and Kindle. Now, we're going to jump in to some scary ghost stories by yours truly, E.R. Hunter, and we're going to follow it up with a great interview from Tony Merkel. Welcome to the show.
I'll never forget coming home and finding my mother really upset, like just distraught, coming from the kitchen and headed up the stairs. And I asked her what was wrong, and she just was perplexed, like disturbed. I don't know. I hadn't seen a look on her face like that in a while. I felt like I had done something wrong. But it turns out she just said, "There's a bat." And I was like, "A bat?" And as she's walking up the stairs, she's like, "In the kitchen." So I'm like, "A bat in the kitchen?" Like, I don't understand. So I turn the corner and I see it. I see it right there.
What the fuck is that? This thing was hanging upside down, right above our sink in the window. Now, it was on the other side of the glass, but it was in between the screen and the glass. And not only was it there, staring into our lives, our kitchen window, which we didn't have blinds over because it looked directly into our neighbor's yard. It was a great way just to have a view of nature, just beautiful, in Virginia. And this thing had nestled itself, wedged its way in between the screen and the glass at our home and positioned itself right in the middle of the window and was just peering back at my mother as she washed dishes. And I think it's safe to say she was straight shook. Growing up in that house, I would oftentimes be there alone. My parents traveled a lot, and so I would have the place to myself. And my room was in the basement. And it was an older house. A friend of mine, she'd actually lived there prior to us moving in, and she always reminded me of the crickets that hopped around my room in the basement because her brother used to have that room. And she'd ask me, "Yeah, the crickets still there?" And they were there. But the creaks, the noises, the footsteps I heard in that house when alone, they never kept me up at night. There's a peace to it, to know I was home, and it was mine. No strange energies in the basement, but above me, for days on end, in the middle of the night, you just knew something else was always home. Oftentimes after work, I would sit on that front porch and smoke weed with a friend of mine, John Wright. We didn't talk too much at school. We crossed paths at parties, and we were part of the same circle of friends. And after working at Outback Steakhouse, actually, he'd meet me at my place, and we would
just sit there, sometimes not saying anything at all, like we had nowhere in the world to be. My folks were gone, and maybe his were home. I found out about a year ago that John Wright, he died in a motorcycle accident. So rest in peace, John, and thanks for smoking with me. Well, that's not the only ghost story I'm going to leave you with. Harvard Heights, Los Angeles, 2014. I was living with about 10 people in a house that was over 100 years old. And the living room was about as big as a bedroom, and yet we would all find ourselves in there. One house guest, did not live there. He would show up kind of out of nowhere. We would never hear the front door open or a knock at the door. And he would stand or sit, and he was always extremely happy to be stopping by. I can't remember his name for the life of me. He never stayed for more than 15, 20 minutes, but he just seemed like it was his pride and joy to be there with us. We asked him who he was friends with, and he just said the name of our landlord. So we figured, okay, maybe he used to live here, and he misses it. But it was just odd. When he wasn't there, we would ask, did you see him come in? Did you see him leave? It'd be interesting to find out who and where, if at all, he is today. Well, that wraps it up for my first season of Straight Shook here on The Rhetorical Sake. But as promised, here we are at the third and final chapter of my first seminal interview with the legendary host of the Confessionals podcast, Mr. Tony Merkel. I want to thank Tony for taking the time out of his busy weekend to meet with me and to answer some silly questions. But they're not so silly to us, are they? And I don't think they're that silly to him either. We have questions that are still unanswered. But the best we can do is share our experiences, our inferences on the matter, and keep maintaining the courage to investigate. Stay tuned. There's more of The Rhetorical Sake, Straight Shook, on the way. God Sent Dog, Chasing God Alcoholically. My books are available on Amazon and Kindle. Hit me up at www.erhunter.live. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the third part of our exclusive interview with the host of the Confessionals podcast. Mr. Tony Merkel. Buckle up.
And it's not only in this home, but it also happened in my previous home. And I don't know what to make of it because, like I said, I don't feel haunted. So I wonder sometimes, I'm like, are we in a freaking Matrix? Is there some kind of Matrix? Maybe not like the movie The Matrix, but is there some kind of like level to this where there's some kind of artificial design around us? Is there some kind of like blockage that we have mentally that doesn't allow us to see the world, the true world around us that is there? And sometimes things peek through, and that's what we call paranormal. I don't know. Just a theory.
Well, that's what my show is all about, is theorizing what all this is and like making sense of it. I mean, do you think this could be something angelic? Do you think maybe it's like a presence? Because like I just stumbled upon this Bible verse, like in Psalms, I think it's like, I'll put my angels in charge of you to protect you type thing. It's almost like Secret Service detail, you think, for this journey. Or because if it's not scaring you, I notice with me, and maybe I have some type of like clairvoyance or intercessory type gift where I get kind of sensitive and I feel maybe what a presence is feeling. I get very anxious and I don't really recognize it until I get a visual or audible sign that a presence is there, like they throw something down or a cup falls off the table. But yours, you're not really, it doesn't seem like it's making your adrenaline pump, but it's consistent. It's
Yeah.
like it's your experience, like it keeps happening to you. So
I don't think it's angelic. I don't get that feeling, and I have no reason to, uh, like I've never, I don't think I've ever experienced an angel. I mean, I could have, right? I mean, Paul says in the Bible that, to always be hospitable because you never know when you're in the presence of an angel. So that tells you that angels can be around you and you not even know it, because throughout the Bible, you see angels transforming their image a lot. I mean, he hosted 2 angels in his home. They looked like human men to the point that the entire town wanted to have sex with them, right? I don't know if anybody knows that
Lot.
story, but
yeah, Abraham, Lot's cousin, or Abraham's cousin Lot.
Crazy story. And, so these guys are going to his home. They break bread with him. They eat with him. So clearly their bodies were able to consume human food. Like, so angels can, transform their bodies is what I'm trying to say. And I've never gotten this feeling that I was in the presence of an angel, even though I'm sure we all have been, if you believe in angels, which I do. So I'm sure we all have at one time or another been in the presence of an angel. We just don't know whether it was in our dimension or in another dimension, but around us, right now, could there be an angel in this room watching over me? Sure. Why not? I don't see any reason why there couldn't be. But with this experience, I would think that if God had an angel looking over me and if I saw something kind of out of the ordinary and it was like, let's just say paranormal, I would think that God would have some way of confirming to me that, not to be fearful, that, he sent his angel to protect me from something or whatever, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of times that, I mean, look at the people's experiences in the Bible when they're interacting with angels. They know they're interacting with angels.
Sure.
And like I tell the story on my show several times about my grandfather being a preacher, and he had angels come and protect him and his guys when an entire town of men wanted to come and storm their camp. And my grandfather didn't see the angels, but the guys who were trying to beat them up saw the angels several times that night, which is why they didn't dare to enter the camp and try destroying things, because they said there was these 12-foot tall angels guarding them, these tall angels.
What?
And so when there's an angel presence and you're actually interacting with the angel, like somebody knows that they're interacting with the angel. Mm-hmm. Usually I'm sure maybe it's not accurate. Maybe that's not always accurate, but I just don't get the feeling that it was angelic. I don't get the feeling it was demonic. I don't get the feeling that it was a ghost. I mean, it's a freaking red light. It's like electricity in the air following me from home to home, and it's red. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking about frequencies and vibrations on my show, and something about its communication pattern is getting your attention to where you and, your spouse notice. So that's pretty cool, though. And thank you for, letting us be the first ones you share that with, because it's like kind of getting behind the veil at like the Wizard of Oz, like seeing the wizard. Do you experience these paranormal entities? And I didn't know. I honestly, from my experience with like having a dream where I flew up to heaven, I feel like maybe it was an angel. I don't think it was Jesus, that like this being that approached me, I kind of saw through my eyelids. And I also don't know if knowing they were there was part of being in their world, because my buddy, I just did this podcast on psychedelics, and he was talking about doing DMT, and which is dimethyltryptamine, and that is released when you die and when you're born and when you dream. So he's been actually vaping it or ingesting it, and he talks about arriving at a place and angelic like beings, these light beings, are like, oh, someone's here with us, like he arrived to their world, and he says they come up to him and they're like beep boop bop bop boop boop like that's really the language that. He said he can't understand the language, but it's very friendly, and he says they give him like shapes and colors and stuff. And I guess when you listen to other people that have done DMT, they tend to go to the same place. But he's also had some bad trips where he's seen like a Baphomet, I guess, or is that like the ram's head on a human body?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I didn't share with you, I had a roommate when I was in rehab that had these bruises on his thigh, and it was a handprint, and it was clearly a man's handprint on his thigh, and he was just like succubus. I was like, what? He was like, I know it's this demon succubus. And so I like went upstairs where all the guys were sleeping, and I prayed, dude. And like I've scared some ghosts away. And actually, your experience reminds me when I was in North Hollywood. My roommate, she told me when I moved in, she was like, "Have you met the man in white?" And I was like, "The man in white." And she was like, "Yeah, he's a ghost, but he's like my little boyfriend, and he looks out for me." And I really wasn't expecting that. I just thought she was trying to get under my skin and like be on your best behavior in my apartment. But how you were saying, I could see down the hallway on my peripheral, and not all the way to my room. And it wasn't a long hallway. It was a bigger, vast apartment, but we didn't have a lot of furniture at all. And I would just always look over my shoulder towards my room and her room. And I didn't see any particular figure, but it was like my body reacted to somebody kind of being there. And when she was in Chicago one weekend, I prayed, I had sage burning, and she got back and she was walking as soon as she got in. She was like, "Did you get rid of the man in white?" And I was like, "Yeah, I did." And I don't know, but I talked to a witch. That's how I found out how to get rid of a ghost. I was at a party. Oh. Yeah, and I met this chick that was like into witchcraft, and she was like, "You got to put out a bowl, and it's got to have water in it. You got to put a light next to it, like a candle, and that way the spirit sees itself in the reflection, and it realizes it's not supposed to be there." So I had that going. I was praying to Jesus. I was binding the devil. I was burning sage, and I guess it left. And actually, I'm going to interview her here pretty soon, because she's like this phenomenal actress in Chicago. And I want to ask her, like, who is the man in white? And like, did I really exercise it?
Sounds racist.
She's black, I'm black, so that might be some type of traumatic, repressed daddy issues she's got. I don't know.
There you go.
Look,
man, I'll tell you, it's interesting life we live, man. And if you open yourself up to looking into it, the answers that pop up to you are intriguing. And it's like, at some point, people who decide to look into this kind of stuff, you have to face the point where you're like, okay, my preconceived notions, my thoughts, my beliefs are being challenged right now. Am I going to cower to this challenge and retreat into what is comfortable and what I know and ignore this new information? Or am I going to explore this new information and challenge my beliefs, challenge my thought processes, and see where the information takes me?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the great news is you're not special. I'm not special. There are 140 billion people that lived on this earth at one time throughout the entire history of mankind. And of all those people, the questions that you have going on through your head, you're not the first one to think of them. You're not the first one to have experiences that are challenging. And so you're just along for the same ride that we've always been on throughout human history. And you're not, more than likely, you're not going to be the person to break ground and change the world with some amazing new information. So just take the information that you have at hand, explore it, because truth is freedom, and see where it goes, and be secure in yourself to do it. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes people are like, I'm scared to go there because if I go there and it challenges me to a level where I either have to change my beliefs or walk around in willful ignorance, that's scary for people. To be faced with a decision where they could possibly have to change their beliefs or choose to be ignorant, knowing that there's information out there that challenges directly what they're choosing to believe. That's scary. It's really scary for people that are religious. I'm a Christian, and I'm an anomaly when it comes to this kind of stuff. There's not a lot of Christians out there that are openly, willingly looking into these kind of things with an open mind.
Yeah.
Because they're not secure enough in their own beliefs.
Dude,
Like,
I totally agree. And honestly, that I don't know. I have had to take my own route as far as having faith and proclaiming to follow Jesus because, like, I identify with LGBTQ stuff. And, like, I know you've mentioned on your show, like, you have friends or whatever. Like, you are a friend to guys like that, which I appreciate, you know, because I never would have thought people would be so nice. But I grew up in Virginia and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, like, for the most part, my friends are like, dude, we love you regardless. But I see it not just with people not accepting me in the church because of that, but going so far as like these people won't go out and grab a drink with you when you're in college with them. And I'm like, you are so deep into this osity, this religiosity of yours that you're missing your 20s. And I feel bad for you because and I'm kind of glad I was a little reckless and I experimented and I did things that, you know, I didn't drive drunk and stuff like that. I just made sure I reminded myself I was 20, 23, 26 when I was those ages. And so I guess now I have fear and it challenges me to change just doing my podcast because I feel super vulnerable. So I guess like interviewing you and like being able to get on your show, it's like inspiring because it seems like you put it out there and you're good with what's out there. You don't have to really wrestle with it at night. You're proud of it type thing. Not pride, but
I just don't care. I just don't care what people think. I just don't care. I don't care. I mean, listen, like I've lived majority of my life trying to make decisions that was going to please the most amount of people. And what happens with those decisions is I'm the one that lives a life of frustration and being pissed off and angry at life because I'm not happy. So I just don't care. I'm not trying to please anybody except for the person that's right in here, my head, which is me. Yeah. I mean, the only person that has space in my head other than me is my wife. She rents a room in there and it's fine. Like, we're good.
I'm good with that. We're good with that.
Yeah. But I just don't care what people think. And it gets frustrating. Don't get me wrong. I mean, the more people that listen to your show, the more hate mail you get, the more angry, nasty comments you get on social media that are public. And you feel like, oh, I got to defend myself. Oh, that's not accurate. If they just see the world the way I see it, they have no idea what I'm going through. They have no idea how much I'm working from morning to midnight. I'm burning my oil. They have no idea.
Yeah.
And and I'm giving them free stuff every week. It's a free show. And they just spit it back in my face like I didn't spend hours upon hours every week slaving over it. You know, so like you can have that kind of attitude where you get so angry and you get so upset and you feel like you justify everything. Or you can just say people are going to be people. You're not going to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is what it is. And it took me time to get to that kind of point, but I just at the point now where it's just like, I don't want everybody to be my friend. And the more you go through life, the more you realize that the people who you thought were your friend, those people have just as much of a chance of stabbing the back as the people you thought were your enemy. So like, just keep your circle tight. Like I keep my circle very, very tight. There's not a lot of wiggle space. If you want in on my inner circle, you have to prove it to me over an extended period of time. If you don't have the endurance to do that, you're not getting in.
Right.
And so it's just, I'm very passionate about not caring what people think, and not just me, but in general, like you, people that are listening right now, stop caring about what other people think about what's going on in your life and what you're deciding to do. Are you happy with your decision? Because you're the one who has to live with it. So are you happy with it? Yes? Great. Move on. Don't worry about what people think. So we live in this outrage culture where everybody wants to be outraged by everything. We have to be outraged by something. Let it go. Just let it go and live at peace in your own mind. And when it comes to the whole religious side of things, and, you know, you mentioned about how, you know, certain people wouldn't hang out with you and stuff like that. Listen, this is how I look at things. I'm a human being. I'm a Christian. I'm a sinner. I sin. The Bible says that God looks at all sin as filthy rags, right? So no matter what I identify as sin or what you identify as sin, the fact of the matter is whatever you identify as sin is still disgustingly filthy in the eyes of God, right? We're
Right.
all nasty. We're all
Right.
disgusting.
Right.
And so that's why there's this whole process of God's grace put into play through Jesus Christ. And so I don't get it, other than the fact that people who are acting like that don't truly understand the grace of God. They don't truly understand the fact that they are just as disgusting and nasty as the person sitting next to him. Like literally, I'm a dude. I think I'm pretty normal outside of I do paranormal podcast. Like I'm just a dude, right? But I have my flaws, and the flaws and the sins that I commit are in God's sight. It's just as bad as the dude, down the street that killed his wife and murdered his mom and is spending a lifetime in jail. Like in God's eyes, he's like, it's all disgusting to him.
Yeah.
And for us as humans, we want to categorize and go, well, I'm not as bad as that guy. Oh, Mike, my next door neighbor, he cheated on his wife. I never cheated on my wife, so hey, I'm better than Mike. No, it's not how it works. And so I just come into life try to be as humble as possible and just be like, we all suck, and that's why we need God.
Yeah.
And I don't play the game of trying to compare myself to others. Yeah. So I don't know.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
Tony's coming with that fire. Tony's coming with that fire life advice right now.
I just go off, man.
The haters. No, that's awesome. Because what I'm gathering is that my haters are little religious thoughts, and they're just there to be on my peripheral. No, I totally get that. I guess for me, I've always felt like called, and it's not like from the outside. It's like people just expect more of me. They're like, you're a good guy. You're a nice guy. Like even police officers, like I don't get speeding tickets and stuff because the cops are like, oh, you're a gentleman and a scholar. Have a great day type thing. So I just feel a responsibility to get some word out there. And I guess I'm trying to hone in on exactly what my word is and to get so passionate and find the confessionals has been amazing because I actually am a huge fan of the show, and then to be on it is awesome because then it's like, okay, people are listening and they have experienced this stuff, and it is what it is. And yeah, people can think what they want. So all them haters out there, forget about it.
I mean, just live life, try to enjoy it, try to be kind to others, and do the best you can by them. And don't think that you're any better. Like you suck. I suck. We all suck. So if we all suck, let's just get along, Right. I mean, that's just the way I look at it. Like people are just, they get so caught up in trying to personally identify into something. And I think a big part of it is the politics that we live in nowadays. I mean, people are living in this identity politics era where they literally wrap up their self-identity in the party that they choose. And I tell people all the time on my show, on my live streams, I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm not on anybody's team except for Tony's team. Like that's it. Like that's why when I say things sometimes, because I can go political, and people are like on my show, they're like, you went political this week. I'm like, trust me, please, for the love of God, trust me, that wasn't political. If you want me to go political, I'll go political.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell people like I'm not on anybody's side, but I'll still I'll say one thing. And I'll get people emailing me saying, oh, clearly you're a Trump lover. And then the next 5 minutes, I get an email, clearly you supported Hillary. I'm like, well, which one is it? And it's because people don't know how to identify me because I don't identify in any party. I think on my own 2 feet and I make my own decisions. And people can't, they can't wrap their heads around that. See, I go off on tangents, man. So just reel me back in anytime.
No, but it sounds like your healthy boundaries as well, and you're sticking to what your market is serving, and so it looks like it's proving profitable. What I kind of want to get to is do you think Jesus was like an interdimensional, interstellar type being, and maybe had some technology? And these miracles are just being summarized in one sentence, or do you I don't know, do you practice meditation? What is your spiritual practice like? Do you have one, or do you just kind of stick to the numbers and do your routine thing throughout the week?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not a big fan of modern 2019 Christianity in America, at least.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that for the most part, not all, but there's a lot, and it's a growing percentage of churches in America that um, are selling out to be businesses,
Hmm.
and it pisses me off and makes me angry. It makes me angry when a pastor is preaching something and he's on a roll and it sounds great, and all of a sudden he veers off into people not tithing enough, and then he goes back to the sermon.
Oh
Uh,
no.
and it's clear. It's clearly because they have a mortgage because they overcommitted to building a
Right.
church building, and they have 5 pastors on staff that they need to pay,
You
and
better preach, Tony.
they need to pay the maintenance guy. They need to pay the landscaper. They
Come
need to do
on.
they need to do all this stuff because they overcommitted financially. When in the Bible, in the beginning of the church wasn't supposed to be a building. It was supposed to be a group of people coming together to worship,
Mhm.
and it wasn't supposed to be a building. And I think if you brought the disciples into 2019, you'd say, "Hey, let's go to church," and we'd pull up to a church building, and they're like, "I thought we were going to church." Yeah, we're here because they wouldn't recognize the church as to
Mm.
what it is now.
Mm. Mm.
It's become a show. It's become a concert. You go into a church and they turn the lights down low during worship, and they have a light show. It's like you're at a concert, and it's like how are you supposed to focus in on worshiping the true spiritual essence of worship when you have a light show going on? You
Right.
have people rocking out on stage, like because the people on stage are fulfilling their life dream of being a rock star, so they're acting like they're in a concert instead of leading
Right.
people to worship. And so, like, the whole thing has become a show, and I think that within that show there are people with pure intentions, but they are lost and clouded with this decades upon decades of repetition of making the church into more and more of a or not podcast, a show, a
Yeah.
party,
Yeah.
a cool place to go. We don't want to say things that are going to step on people's toes because we want them to come back next week because we need that freaking money. When you are controlled by paying the bills at a church, you now have to say certain things and omit certain things from your sermon so that people continue to come the following week to tithe so that you can pay the bills. If people stop coming, you can't pay the bills, and then you got to go find a real job. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said
Mm.
it like that, but it's true.
No.
Because
Definitely say it like
because
that.
I'm a big proponent of, if you want to be a pastor of a church, start a home church, have people come to your house. You guys have a treasury and everything. Keep it in manageable numbers at a home so that over the next 10 years, you guys collect, let's just say 50, 60, $70,000 in a bank account that's not touched because you don't have a mortgage. You're meeting at your house. Everybody's bringing a dish that you can have lunch with and stuff, and it's more intimate. And then when that one person that comes to your house every Sunday has $30,000 in medical bills they don't know how to pay, you can help pay it.
Mm.
So, but there are churches like that, house churches, where the person hosting it, they have a full-time job, and I am a big supporter of that. Anyways, I say all that to say, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, I hear you. I mean, I literally was thinking, you know what? I'm gonna just utilize my podcast, get some sponsors, and bank on this. But the door opened for me to go back to work. And it's just like a little sandwich cafe. Like literally, that's all we make are sandwiches. They're dank sandwiches. But it's a little 9 to 5. And any restaurant that's not a chain, you're going to be putting out fires all day. So I can make every excuse in the world, like why I don't want to work there. Or I could utilize what I grew up with, which was hosting at like Outback Steakhouse from the time I was like 16 years old to becoming a waiter at Carrabba's and working there off and on until I graduated college. Like it's just in me to do that. But at the same time, it's like I know I've been called to work in communications and like all this garage band audio engineering and podcast stuff. It's just like that is a part of me. So I guess me getting used to the fact that, okay, I'm actually doing this now, but not totally banking on it and actually getting out and not putting all my eggs in one basket, because I've started to like make my website like you could monetize your website through Amazon, like put links on that and like hoping to get traction with stuff like that. Just outsourcing all these different little venues to kind of just I want to make money while I sleep. That's the bottom line.
Sure.
And it just sucks because it's like I feel like in my heart I might be upset with God if I'm not doing that by the time I'm this, or I just turned 30, and so maybe that's why I'm like getting on the ball now type thing. And I just want to get this like relationship to where it's not based on how I'm doing economically. It's no matter what comes. But at the same time, I feel like me listening to my higher power, God, Jesus, whatever, involves being financially responsible and actually believing in myself and doing something that I feel like matters, even if it makes a difference with one person. Excuse me.
Yeah. I mean, so whether your podcast is making money or not, I mean, I just look at it as, you know, you have to put the time in and effort in, right? And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And if you want to make it a spiritual thing, and you want to say, well, God didn't, you know, I'm mad at God. Well, I mean, maybe it just wasn't something that, you know, like, all right. So basically what I would ask you then is, do you feel God is calling you to do this?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. So if you feel God is calling you to do this, then do it and see what happens. And if God's plans and intentions are that one day you're going to make money doing this, which a lot of people do it and they don't make a ton of money. But if that's what God's plans and intentions are, you have to trust the process and be patient, right? I mean, so it says in the Bible that God views, I think it's like one day as 1,000 years to God for us. Like, so we live one day, and to God it's like 1,000 years, or 1,000 years is one day.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's 1,000 years to us is one day to God. Like, God's outside of time. So like if we're like, hey God, you know, it's been 2 years, what's going on here? It's like he's like, I'm outside of time. You're not. First of all, you're not on your own timeline. You're on my timeline. Guess what?
Right.
I'm outside of time. So it will happen when I say it's going to happen. And so like it's that humility and living your life in this humble state of, listen, if I feel like I'm called by God to do this, then I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to trust in the process and wait it out and see where God takes it. Do you know there's so many pastors out there that I just got done knocking churches, but there are so many pastors out there that have tiny churches, and they tiny congregations that they could go to another church and have a bigger congregation. They can move to another city where bigger congregation, but they stay where they're at, and they don't make a lot of money and they barely get by, but they trust the process because they feel God called them there. And so it's like, if you feel God calling you to do something, at that point, if you're truly being honest with yourself and you feel God has called you to do something, at that point, it all gloves are off, and you're like, okay, then I'm on God's timeline, and I'm not going to twist God's arm, because it's up to him what he wants to do with this now. I mean, I started my podcast 2.5 years ago, and I'm still driving truck full time. Like, right. 2.5 years ago when I started the show, I started on January 19th, 2017. Like, when I started the show, I was like, December, I'm done driving truck. I'm going to kill this thing over the next year, and I'm going to be full time by the end of the year. Well, that's 2.5 years ago, and I'm still working full time. And so, you just got to be patient. What I would say on a non-spiritual level, on a non-God level, you have to build something before it's worth anything financially.
Sure. So
attention is currency in this game. There is no other currency. You want people's attention, because attention leads to money. If you're chasing money before you have the attention, you're not going to get money. So what you want to do is you want to focus in on the craft, create the best product as possible, and hustle, grind, and like pimp yourself out for as much attention as possible, because the more attention you get, the more money down the road you'll get. You have to play for the long, because it's like a snowball that's rolling down a hill. At first, it's this tiny little thing. It's nothing. By the time it gets to the end of the hill, it's rolling over cars and demolishing everything in its path. It's the momentum game. You have to build the momentum. And once you get that momentum going, it just has its own energy, but it takes a lot of work to get it going. And so this is to you, to anybody listening that wants to do content creation. If you want to make money going into it, you're like, listen, I like the idea of it. I think it's fun, all that stuff. But ultimately, my ultimate goal is to make money. Then you need to treat it like it's your full-time job, like you're punching in every day, and work it like a job, not like a hobby, not like a game. Like, this is a job. And you're going to do it for a year, 2 years, where you don't make a dime off of it, because you're playing for the long game for 5-10 years down the road, when you sowed so many seeds and you're building up so much attention that all of a sudden when you implement something for financial gain, it explodes.
Wow. Dude, that's the best news ever. And I really appreciate it, because, I'm working on my third book, and I'll probably be very considerate about when I release this interview. And I know you've taken a good amount of time out of your Friday night for me. So we're going to wrap this up. But
I didn't tell you about my thoughts on Jesus, though.
Oh, I mean, and I know every time I ask you a question, you answer, and then I just go off on some tangent about something else, because I've experienced those churches that have the lights off. When I was doing music in New York City, they were coming to like where they had like Taylor Swift and Ed Sheeran concerts on Sundays, and it'd be like a concert in there. And I was walking through because I was going to smoke weed on the fire escape. So I had to literally walk through this church service. But the pastor had like a 6-pack and this deep cut V-neck. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder like all these queens in here can pay attention. Like,
$2,000 sneakers,
church,
probably a leather coat that costs $5,000. You got to dress it. You got to dress good, praise God.
Do you need to take a break or anything, or
No, man, I'm golden, bro.
All right, cool.
I just go and go. I'm like the freaking Energizer Bunny.
I can tell from that live show. I was like, this dude doesn't even have a commercial break. He's rolling.
My first live show I ever did was for the public, and I went 3 hours straight, no breaks, no commercial breaks, straight up 3-hour show, no breaks. Like, that's unheard of. I just roll. I don't care. Like, I'll talk until my voice is gone.
Right on. Well, do you mind? I don't want to hold you up for as long as I have so far, but can we take a 5-minute break and I can call you back again? Sometimes you know what I mean. So
yeah.
All right,
for
I'm
sure.
gonna stop. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. Thank you so much to Tony Merkel for stopping by the Rhetorical Sake, contributing to the Straight Shook series. What a great time we've had. Yeah. Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. If you've enjoyed what you heard here today, make sure that you stop by erhunter.live and let us know. Subscribe, rate, and review the show. Patreon.com/erhunter. You can show us some love, sow a seed, help me launch extra resources that help, because baby, we made it. I'm so grateful for how the show is growing. Thank you all from India to Alaska, from South America up to the Netherlands, Sweden, France, Germany. I love you all. I'm so excited to see where next season's Straight Shook goes. But I'm also excited to see where the Rhetorical Sake podcast at large is going. I wouldn't have made it this far without you. So keep on coming back, because I will too. No one told you they love you today, baby. I love you. You're stronger than ever. You're better than ever. As long as you want to be. So keep it pushing, homie.
Over and over, over and over. God keeps doing it over and over. Just do it again, do it again, play it again, play it again, subscribe again, review again, rate it again, just rate it again and play it back, just play it back, just play it back, just play it back. Rhetorical Sake, it's the podcast. Rhetorical Sake, it's the podcast. And we got them straight shook, got them straight shook, got them straight shook, make them take a second look. I'm out. Oh, yeah.